again, everyone. This is Joe Dunn, along with my co-host Ryan Belts, as we get ready to talk some high school, college, and pro basketball all over Northeastern Ohio. We're coming to you live and direct from Stark County, the hotbed of high school sports all over the state of Ohio. We're joined, of course, by Hall of Fame coach Randy Montgomery each week to give us his thoughts on what he views as high school, college, and basketball, some of the top things he's noticed during the week. And, of course, it's all brought to you each week by Bud Wentz and everybody at the Wentz Financial Group, 5790 Hudson Drive in Hudson, our official sponsor of the Mid-American Concert Report, and also by John Shaw and everybody at the Red Carpet Car Wash, 4546 West Tusk, and all the Dad's Car Wash locations throughout Stark County. What a week it has been. And let's start talking a little high school basketball. Coach, I'll start with you. Before we started the show, you and I were talking about that unbelievable game last night between McKinley and GlenOak. Went into overtime. McKinley wins it 104-94. GlenOak at one time in that game had a 28-point lead and blew it. If you remember a game like that, you coached in, lost a big lead like that or not?
Well, my second year of coaching in a tournament, we were up 14 points at the end of the third quarter in the tournament, and we lost, which just once things get going like that. But I've never seen 28 like that. My goodness, one quarter. I think GlenOak was still up 10 at the end of the third quarter last night.
Yeah,
but it was slipping away, and boy, that's a heartbreak for them, and incredible comeback for McKinley.
McKinley had 19 points at the end of the first quarter, ends up with 104. I mean, that's amazing. Their big guy, Keys, a transfer from Aquinas, 6'8" junior. He ends up with 32. I think at least 21 of those came from the free throw line. He made a couple nice moves, but boy, GlenOak just couldn't match him in size inside. They were double teaming him, triple teaming him. They were still getting the ball. And then he hit a three. He was out there trying to make some threes, finally made one. But I think McKinley's pretty good. They go deep. And right now, they're my favorite to win the Federal League. I don't know about you, Coach.
Well, when we started off, we said McKinley and Hoover were the two kind of front runners. And Hoover came back and won against Jackson the other night. Same thing. They were down 10 at the end of the third quarter and came back. So once that momentum shifts like that, that's a good thing. It was a good thing for them. They got beat, I think, Saturday over at Massillon in a non-conference game, and then came back last night and beat Green at Green. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think the Federal League in general is down a little bit, except for maybe Hoover and McKinley, but maybe things will shake out a little differently here.
Here's my top five in Stark County. I'll start with you, Ryan, and let you comment also, Coach. Here's my top five right now in Stark County. Still early in the season, but right now I've got McKinley number one. I've got Hoover number two. I've got Alliance number three. They're 6-0. Then Massillon. Then Louisville. I still think Louisville's got some talent. I'm not sure else I could put in that number five spot. Ryan, what do you think of those top five? And then, Coach, I'll let you comment and kind of rearrange those any way you want.
Yeah, I think that's pretty dead on, Joe. When I'm looking at that, McKinley, to me, there's a lot of separation, even with that game being as close as it was and them being behind. I think when they turn on the Jets and if they get better in February, there's some separation between one and everyone else. Now, I do say I think Hoover's really good, really talented team. I put them at number two. And then after that, I think it's pretty even in my book, Joe. I think everyone is probably in that lane. I think there's just a ton of separation between number one, number two, and then the top two and everyone else.
Coach, what do you think of those top five? Would you move anybody else in there, move somebody out, or what?
Yeah, I think all four of those teams are pretty good. McKinley and Hoover maybe a tad, maybe 2-3 points better. But I do think Massillon's very good, and I do think Alliance is very good. So, those four I think are kind of head and shoulders above. I've not seen Central. You have, I think, Joe, or had followed them a little, but I think those four, and then as Ryan said, I think the others are kind of all bunched together on a given night. Anybody can beat anybody. The Lakes and the Greens and the Perrys and the GlenOaks, who knows? I mean, how GlenOak had the talent to get up 28 points on them at home. They must have some talent.
Yeah, they've got some talent. They got Isa White, who I think had 32 for GlenOak. He's a 6'2 senior. He's really good. Some of the other scores from last night, Hoover knocked off Green 68-39. Louisville beat Fitch on the road 47-45. Alliance, as I said, goes 6-0. They beat Warren Holland 75-58. A surprise to me a little bit, Central Catholic beat Perry 44-34 at Perry. And I thought Perry was pretty good. I mean, they went over to beat GlenOak by 5 at GlenOak last week, but Central, this is the second straight year they've beat them. Central's now 2-2. A surprise up in the greater Akron area. How about Brunswick knocking off Hoban 70-52? So yeah. I think Brunswick may be the best in Medina County. Meanwhile, down in Tuscarawas County, New Philly, I think they're pretty good this year. They beat West Holmes 62-47. So, Coach, I know you pay attention to Wayne County and Tuscarawas County. It looks like New Philly may be the best down there in Tuscarawas County this year.
Oh, yeah. I saw it last night. I went to see Strasburg and Malvern play. And, it was at Strasburg. I thought it'd be a good game. And it was for the first half, but then Malvern pulled away from them. I don't think either team are going to be particularly strong, but not bad, middle of the pack type teams. And it was fun to see that old style environment though, Joe. Yeah, that's kind of what we're used to, the old Farrell, Sharon relationship.
That's right.
And, the place was crowded, the band was playing, and had the spotlight introductions, and
that's fun.
It made me feel good to get back in the gym like that.
Now, is it true? Can you verify this, Coach, that down in the Strasburg gym, they have a picture and jersey of Charlie Jones hanging up in the rafters?
It's probably up there. I missed it though, but he was a part of that state championship team, that won 27 in a row. So he was a legend.
I've never seen him play. Now, he tells me he was a heck of a shooter. In fact, he told me one time that he taught Bob Huggins how to shoot the basketball, that years ago that Charlie would just throw his young Bobby into there. He was 12 years old. He'd throw him into those scrimmages with the big guys. He'd hold his own. Can you verify that?
Well, I know Charlie Huggins Sr. was the coach of him, so maybe he has that backwards. I don't know. He was a good shooter, though. They won them all, including the last one when they went down to Columbus in a snowstorm and won. But that's interesting.
How about also last night, St. Vincent St. Mary knocked off Lutheran East 54-46. I'm not sure who good Lutheran East is, but I know that McKinley handled St. V early in the year, so that just tells me again how good McKinley is. Jackson 58, Lake 55. Jackson's now 2-1. Had Tom McBride on the TV show. He'll be on tonight. That'll be on Big Time Sports TV tonight. And he's playing some young kids. Jackson, I think, I was checking with some people last night at the Fieldhouse. If I'm not mistaken, they told me that Jackson has 5 freshmen on their varsity roster, and the regular freshman team is undefeated. So those must have a heck of a freshman class, Coach. And you and I both know if you get a couple classes like that back to back, you're destined to have a pretty good team in the future.
Well, you got you have the program going now. That's what's hard to get going. Once you've got it going like that, and those young kids that are playing right now were the ones that were up in the stands when Kyle Young and your son were playing for the state championship down in Columbus. So they grew up wanting to be, Golden Bears, and that's kind of what's happening. I think there they've got a gap between their seniors and freshmen, but the freshmen are outstanding. They had that freshman the other night, 6'7".
Yeah,
he had 19 points, and that's a handful for anybody, let alone a freshman.
Yeah, they told me he reminds everybody a little bit of Kyle Young at 6'7". He can out there and face the basket. 20, 25 feet away, and he's not going to be nothing but stronger. But Ryan, let's bring you in. The coach mentioned those Jackson teams back in the 2014, 15, 16, 17. You watched those teams play, and you were too old to want to be one of them, but you remember those teams pretty well, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Great tradition. The 2010 team with Egner and Henniger and Brad DuPont. And then that goes all the way back to the Bosley years in 90s, where I really think it started with Larry Taylor. And you had that momentum getting built, and a couple state championships and numerous appearances in the Final Four. And outside McKinley, the most successful program, unquestionably, in Stark County is the Jackson Polar Bear program. And that's pretty impressive. Now, this year, I do think McKinley's got a shot. Agree with Coach, too. I shouldn't knock, Alliance. I think Alliance is a really good team. I do think McKinley's got a shot to get to the Final Four. We'll see how they improve this year. And Hoover, I think, is a real solid team, and they're really well coached, and I like them a lot this year. But for Jackson, yes, I think, I've heard a lot about this freshman class, so it's more of a development year, and then you hope that pays dividends 2 years from now, and you can really once again try to hang a third banner up there in the rafters. So no question about it. What I thought was kind of cool, guys, is I saw the latest pre-NBA draft rankings come out for who's going to go number one. Right now, ESPN has Darren Peterson, the number one pick. And I was just thinking, there's not too many places, Akron, Canton, that can say they've had number one picks in the last 25 plus years from one geographic place. Outside of maybe New York, Chicago, little Akron, Canton might have two number one picks. How about that with LeBron James and Darren Peterson? Then projected right now, we'll see how he finishes the year at Kansas to go number one overall.
Coach, what do you think? I've never seen Peterson play. I think you probably have. I knew his dad really well. His dad played up at Akron. He played down high school ball in Cincinnati. And, of course, his son has been touted as one of the best to ever come out of this area. So give us a little scouting report. What can he do?
Well, he is. He's the real deal, and he's battling a little bit of injury right now, but I think he's just trying to make sure his body stays really good because he's a phenom. We tried to get him to go with us to Italy with our team, back when he was in high school, and couldn't get him to go. But he's terrific. The Cavs have a guy on their squad or D-League squad. I think he might be in the big squad now that is also from Northeast Ohio, isn't he? His name escapes me right now, but those two were very good players, and we'll see. Peterson's very good. We've had some first rounders. CJ and Costa Koufos were first rounders, weren't they?
Yeah.
I think Gary Grant was a first rounder. Probably
Let me tell you a story about Costa Koufos, because when I was taping the TV show the other day over at Image Video, talked to one of the guys over there, and he works up in Cleveland on the production crew to televise the Cavs game, and they were out for lunch one day, and they were just sitting there, and there was a guy sitting next to him. They didn't really notice him. He had a kind of a hooded sweatshirt on, and the guys he was with were talking basketball, and somebody found out he was from Stark County, and they said, well, how good was that Costa Koufos in high school? And Mike Tonjes, who really owns Image Video, says, man, he was really, really good. And it just so happened that the guy put his hood down. It was Costa Koufos sitting right next to everybody. And he bought everybody lunch. He said, I appreciate that. He said, you could have said something negative about me, but you didn't know I was here, and I'm buying everybody lunch. So there's a good story for you. Costa Koufos, still doing a good job, still in the area. His dad owns a bunch of rental properties in Canton, which he helps out down here. So he's never left the area, Coach. And you remember that big guy.
Oh, yeah. We played against him and CJ. They were both on the same team at one point. I think Costa was a senior. But, those two came out of the same high school. I don't know too many high schools that are public schools that have two first-round draft picks in the NBA. But, wow. Yeah, that's impressive, and that's nice to hear. He's a good guy. Costas is, a quality person, and so CJ. Major McCollum is making $34 million this year.
Yeah.
He's just a good person. which is better.
Coach, any news coming out of Wayne County? I know you keep track of those coaches and players and teams down there. Any thoughts on Wayne County basketball?
Well, yeah, I talked to Keith Snoddy the other day over at Triway, and they're talented, but they've stumbled a little bit. They're trying to get the team unified and get everybody on the same page. They did beat Tuslaw fairly handily last night, but they've lost a couple. I guess Mansfield Senior is very good. Worcester beat Dover beat Worcester by 3 at Worcester. So, that Jay Richardson's the coach at Worcester. I don't know if you guys know that. The guy, he's from McKinley, but they seem to be competitive. And who else is in Wayne County? The Norwaynes maybe not quite as talented as they've been, but they're well coached. And we'll just kind of see here in the next few weeks how things shake out with them. But I think Orville, they say, has got some pretty good talent. Triway is going to be talented. I don't know if they can get that thing really rolling like they need to, but they should be good.
Ryan, what about up in greater Cleveland? What can you report up there?
Yeah, I was talking to my friend who's the Mayfield coach. They had a nice win over Orange. And then you got Ignatius up here, who's just really, I think, one of the class teams. Of course, you got Lutheran East, really tough. And then on the west side, I know, some teams are talking about Avon Lake and Avon. Of course, Avon had that tremendous run in football, so they're still getting their athletes in there. But the usual suspects, Lorraine's going to be really good. Garfield Heights going to be good, but Ignatius really, is going to be the team, I think, up this way. But I do think Lorraine is going to battle them. They're pretty tough.
Let's turn our attention now to college basketball. Let's talk about the Mid-American Conference first, then the Big Ten. But talking to John Gross the other day, he feels like the Mid-American Conference right now, the top portion of the MAC is as good as it's been in a long, long time. Miami, the Redhawks right now are 11-0. It's the best start in program history. And they will host the Zips down in Oxford on January 3rd. That'll be a 3:30 tip-off. Then you got UMass. This will be their first year in the league. They're 8-3 right now. They've won 5 in a row. They just beat Boston College and Florida State in the last 2 games. They'll host Kent State on December 20th at 2 o'clock. Then you got Buffaloes at 9-2. They got a win over DePaul. They're led by a young guy, a transfer from Wisconsin named Daniel Freitag. He's a 6'2 sophomore and didn't get the minutes he wanted, I think, at Northwestern. He transferred to Buffalo, and he's supposed to be maybe the best player in the MAC. Kent State's 9-2. They've got Delrico Gillespie, who might be the best overall player in the MAC. You got Bowling Green. It's 8-3. They already beat Kansas State on the road, 82-66. And, Coach, this may be as good a top level of Mid-American Conference basketball we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I think the gap is closing between, even the Division I, big time teams and Mid-American mid-major teams. It always looks like they lose in preseason because they're always playing on the road. Those teams like Ohio State, if they would come to Akron and play, yeah, they would sell it out, and it would be a great game. And I think Akron would give them all they want at home. But they're not going to do that because they know you get them down there, they're going to get their Big Ten preferred officials. They're going to pay you $100,000, and you're going to lose. So, but when you get in the NCAA, that all is down the drain. You're playing on a neutral floor. Your talent is somewhat comparable to them. And, it's maybe a 10-point difference, but that 10 points can fluctuate and go away pretty quickly, as I'm sure you've seen over the years.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Now, I didn't mention Toledo, who's always at the top of the Mid-American Conference. You saw Toledo play Youngstown State. I'm not sure the Rockets are as good as they've been in the past, but they can be dangerous. What do you think of Toledo when you saw them?
Well, that's the key word, dangerous. They went to Michigan State, I think, last night and lost by like 23, 24. But, that's probably as tough a place as there is to play in the North. But I thought they had pretty good talent, and they beat Youngstown by, I think, 18 points, and Youngstown's pretty talented.
Ryan, what's your thoughts on the Mid-American Conference? You're up there in Cleveland. Do people talk about, I know the Cleveland State's up there. How much support do the Vikings get? How much do they talk about Mid-American Conference with Akron and Kent and all those MAC graduates up there? Give us a thought on what the college basketball fans up there, who do they follow? Who do they talk about?
Well, Cleveland State's got some support. There's no question about it. I think there's strong support for Akron and Kent up here. There's a lot of Akron and Kent alums up here, so they get a lot of support. Youngstown State as well gets a lot of support up here. I hear that a lot. So those teams dominate, I'd say. If you're a college basketball fan, Youngstown State, Cleveland State, Akron, Kent, all those alums dominate here in the Cleveland area, the discussion. But as you guys well know, everything revolves around the Cleveland Browns in this area. You can't escape it on the radio, anything else. That dominates it. So that's about 95% of the media coverage up here is the Browns. Then you got a little Cavs sprinkled in. You got some Guardians sprinkled in. And then barely do you get mentioned. Ken Carmen does a great job of shouting out the local colleges. But that's about it, guys. And so it's tough being a college basketball fan. That's why they got to come to SumStar Sports and get their coverage.
Exactly. Talking about college sports, how about the Buckeyes? They beat West Virginia in double overtime, 89-88. I'm not sure if you watched that game, Coach. And now they play North Carolina down in Atlanta coming up in a couple days. But that was a big win for the Buckeyes. I'm not sure what type of crowd they had up there. That was played up in Cleveland. What do you hear about that game?
Well, it was a good win for them. I was glad to see their big guy emerge. Amari, I forget the name of the freshman, but he played well, and they need that. They need a big man. They've got a great guard. There's no question about it. Thornton is tremendous, and they've got a big man, and they've got a few pieces around them that are okay. I just don't see the depth there. But and you got to remember, West Virginia, Notre Dame, Pitt, those are the three big teams they've played so far, along with Illinois and Northwestern. They beat at Northwestern, but they're not top of the Big Ten. So, I'm still not a believer, I guess, in the Buckeyes. I think they're going to be. You're looking at Nebraska and Purdue and Michigan and the teams that they're going to have to play. And those teams have all had good coaching changes in the last 3 years. And I think that's the difference.
Brian, let me throw this out at you. As you look around Cleveland, around Ohio, it seems to me that if somebody's going to a Mid-American Conference school and you're following football, you are more prone to follow Ohio State football as opposed to your home school. Then for basketball, I think it reverses. I think that the people that attend those Mid-American Conference schools favor their basketball over Ohio State basketball. Is that something that you find also?
I would say that's a fair statement. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. Now, I think what I consider it to be is there's a lot of fair weather Ohio State basketball fans. So I think if Ohio State's really good in basketball, those fans will jump back on board. Even if they're following, the Zips or Kent, then they'll go back to Ohio State. But otherwise, I do think their allegiance probably stays with their home school. And yes, the football is like the state team, as we all know, no pun intended. Ohio State really represents the entire state of Ohio, and everyone kind of roots for them for the most part. But yes, I'd agree for basketball. That's no question. It's a lot of fair weather Ohio State basketball fans. And that's the fault of the university, really. They haven't built a consistent culture or winner there, similar to that team up north that had the Fab Five and some of those schools where that's a consistent fan base with their basketball program. I don't think you really see that with the Buckeyes.
Exactly. Coach, you talk to a lot of people. Do a lot of people still follow Buckeye basketball as closely as you do, or is it kind of spread around now with college basketball? I know you follow Mount Union a lot. You're over there for those games, but as you talk to fans, is it mainly an Ohio State group of fans, or you talk college basketball in general?
Well, the interest would be there. They got to win, like we talked about last weekend. Ohio State football goes 6-4. I mean, they weren't talking about Ohio State football too much when Luke Fickell was there. They were 5-5 and 6 and
Yeah.
4, and when John Cooper was there, it was all grumbling. Um, you got to get the head guy that has that dream, and I hope Jake Diebler is the guy. But this is the year. It's time to. You got payrolls that can bring a roster in that you want immediately and can keep them there with the facilities and the everything that Ohio State has going for it. I don't think Gene Smith cared. I think the new AD does, and I think it's just one hire away. Just look at what Michigan's doing and look at what Nebraska's done. Nebraska's 11-0, I think, right now. The coaching in football and basketball, Signetti. I mean, we've talked about it. It's not, as long as the school is making a commitment to compete and they have the right guy in there, you can win. I could put Bob Huggins at Ohio State, 20 years ago, and he would have turned that thing into a powerhouse. And that too, Joe. I think that,
Oh, yeah.
he would have shook everything up. Why they didn't do it? Well, you tell me. Same thing with Bobby Knight. He's an Ohio State graduate. I get frustrated. The coaches I talk to, yeah, they follow him, but who wants to follow a team that doesn't make the tournament?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Coach. You and I both grew up when Ohio State basketball with Jerry Lucas, Mel Noll, Larry Siegfried, John Havlicek. I mean, you were following those guys all over. I mean, we didn't have all the media coverage, but you found a way to cover them anyway and follow them anyway. And those were household names around the state of Ohio because they were all Ohio guys. But we could talk about that for the next.
We just named Chris Livingston and Peterson right off the top of our head. And those are two of the best players in the country. You would think that they wouldn't want to go to Kansas. And if the right guy's there, if Dusty May's here, I think he makes one heck of a play for both of those guys at Ohio State. I don't know.
I agree. You keep those big-time guys in Ohio, then all of a sudden Buckeyes are up there with the top teams in the country. Hey, let's turn the page for the final segment to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Ryan, I'll start with you. I do not follow the NBA that closely until the playoffs begin. And then I follow it very closely because to me, it seems like all you're doing in the regular season is playing for home court advantage. And I don't know how you feel, Ryan, but I just don't pay a lot of attention to the Cavs right now. I watch their games, but I don't live and die with their wins and losses like I do with college teams I follow.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting, Joe. I love the NBA, but I do think they are at a point where the MLB was maybe 5 years ago, where people are like, I don't follow the MLB until the playoffs. There's too many games. It's boring. It's lasts 3.5 hours long. And the MLB made some major changes. Obviously, they shortened the games, made it a little bit more exciting. I think they're still tweaking some things, and we saw the ratings really responded to that. MLB had some great ratings. I think the NBA is in a little bit of a similar crisis right now. LeBron is retiring, so who's the face of the league? They have a lot of European talent, which I think is great globally, but I don't know how much that resonates with people in the United States. And then I think the game is just, and this is a problem with it. It's a lot of threes. There's not a lot of defense. There's not fundamental basketball. It looks like guys are just kind of going through the motions. They still have a load management problem where guys are resting every now and then. Guys get injured. So I think the NBA is in a little bit of a crisis right now. I think they need to get ahead of that curve. I think you're not alone. I think a lot of people, kind of tune out the NBA. I think that's the case up here. And I think the Cavs, problem with the Cavs right now, guys, is that, nothing's really changed. They've kept the roster, and we know the problems with this roster. Number one, they can't stay healthy. Number two, they just lack a toughness, an interior toughness, and overall toughness that we see from other teams. And that seems to have not changed. We haven't seen a real progression with Mobley where he's going to turn into the guy on the team. I don't think that's going to happen. Mobley is who he is. So it's kind of like they're going through the motions. So for someone locally, it's kind of like, you're watching a film on repeat that the end. It's not that entertaining. So I'm with you there, Joe.
Coach, what do you think? Let me give you an initial question, then you can give us your thoughts on the Cavs. If you're sitting at home and you've got a chance to watch an NBA game or a good college game, what's your choice every night?
Oh, I'm watching a good college game, I think, and you probably too. I
Yeah,
think Ryan's spot on everything you said there. It's these guys are making so much money that they don't always, play hard. It's hard to play hard for 82 games plus
sure.
another 30 playoff games. So, what's the answer? Well, they want paid, so you got to play games. I'm sure every game they play, there's $3 or $4 million made by Cav or NBA owners, just from the tickets and all the concessions and parking and everything that happens. So if you cut it back 10 games, you look at $30-40 million less payroll. So I don't know. It's getting a little too wild for me to watch, but I'd definitely like to see a good college game played. And you got some good players out there now, and I like the offenses, the way they're moving. But I still think they could get a little bit of inside game. It would be, it would make things better as well.
Yeah, the one thing I think fans don't realize, and you touched on it, Coach, how tough it is to play your best and give 100% during an 82 game schedule. I mean, I'm not the youngest guy around, and as much traveling as I have done in the last 3 or 4 weeks, flying here, flying there, there's no way I could get off and play a basketball game after that travel, sitting in airports and sitting in planes and losing sleep here and there. And people forget about that. That wears on you.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I think these guys do it from the beginning of October until, at least the end of April, sometimes
Yeah.
May. But one thing I think the Cavs are missing is Ty Jerome. That's my thought. He was a spark plug in many games, and they're not getting that scoring off the bench like they had last year. They kind of gave up on him, and I get he's a little smaller guard, but proof's in the pudding. We're not playing very well right now. Until we get everybody back, we won't know exactly what the issue is.
I've often felt, Coach, and I'll let you talk about this too. At any level of basketball, high school, college, or pros, if you have good guards, you can win a lot of basketball games. You talk about size, but those guards, I think, are the key to winning basketball games.
Well, for sure. Look at Purdue. I think Smith is the best point guard in the country. He's tough, and he makes Lawyer better. He makes the whole team better. You definitely, it's nice. Look at Ohio State. They're guard oriented. They have a couple bigs, but they're not going to get you 25, 30, 35 points like Thornton can, and Mobley's good. And yeah, for sure. You got to have some good guards, and there's a lot of guards playing right now that are outstanding. I'm surprised that the college guys that have come out, especially from Duke, last year, those guys are all 5 of them went to the NBA and are all 5 doing pretty well.
Yeah, for
Cooper
sure.
Flag had 42 the other night, which is the first time an 18-year-old ever had 42 points.
Yeah, it's amazing how talented they are coming out of those programs. Ryan, before we close, give me your final thoughts on any subject we haven't touched, and what are your thoughts?
Final thoughts, guys. Cooper Flag, I will say that I get the NBA League Pass every year because I love basketball. And Cooper Flag has been a joy to watch, and he is the real deal. There's a reason why his sports cards right now are going through the roof, because this kid at 18 looks like he has the IQ and figured out the mental part of the NBA. So as long as his talent keeps progressing, he's going to be really special, and that could be a blessing to the NBA to have Cooper Flag be the face of the league. Also, guys, the Browns, here we are with Shedeur Sanders, and we're talking about who's going to be the quarterback and everything, who's going to be our coach. And it's just kind of sad that we've had this franchise now, at least for me, 25 years plus since they came back in 99. And this franchise has defined all statistical odds in being inept for 26, 25 years. That defies logic. And the fact that we're going to go through another coach, maybe another quarterback, is unbelievable. The only bright spot to me is to see Myles Garrett chase this sack record. I hope he gets it next game. That is a bright spot, that we do have a Hall of Famer, and unbelievable that he's been able to do this when everyone knows who you got to watch on the defense and they have no offensive help. So it's pretty impressive.
It's unbelievable that he's back this year. He had a chance to leave, and somehow somebody talked him into staying up there. I'm sure money talks, but I'll tell you, winning to me is you want that ring. And Coach, what's your final thoughts on any topics we've discussed or anything you want to bring up new?
Well, yeah, the Browns, again, we're old, so we grew up in the 70s, 80s when they were dominant. I watched the Cleveland Browns every quarter, every minute, and went to games. I haven't been to a game in 25 years, and they haven't won in 25 years. So this is embarrassing to see. I don't know what they're thinking. You ended up, playing a quarterback that nobody literally wanted for 5 rounds in the NBA draft or the NFL draft. And it's just, wow. I mean, Ryan, you're way up there closer than we are, but I just can't imagine how a guy can hold on there when he's as bad as they are.
Well, Coach, let me give you a pleasant thought as we say goodbye today. It won't be that long till pitchers and catchers report for spring training out in Arizona, and Guardians baseball will be with us before you know it.
That'll be fun. I may make a trek out there again. I went last year, so we'll see. But it's going quickly.
Exactly. Well, guys, here we are. We're ready for another weekend of basketball. I'm sure all three of us can't wait to observe high school, college, and pro basketball. We make our notes so we know what we're talking about next time we come on our podcast. And certainly appreciate your input. For my co-host, Ryan Belch, for the Hall of Famer, Randy Montgomery, my name's Joe Dunn. Thanks for listening to another SumStar podcast.
Sounds good. Ryan, what do they say?